Welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock. As always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Baltimore Ravens today. We know the 2025 NFL Draft is officially behind us, and we have a very good idea of what this depth chart is going to look like in just a few months when the Baltimore Ravens are strapping up week 1. And as they're heading into training camp just around the corner, we got an undrafted free agent tracker of all the guys the Ravens are bringing in to compete for roster spots and practice squad spots. We also have Rashod Bateman running routes in the grocery store, which is awesome. And he's also named as one of the most underrated players in the NFL. We'll talk about that and much more. So let's go ahead and dive into the content. At number 1, let's talk about the biggest concern for the Baltimore Ravens roster. Just looking at it holistically, without the purple shades on today, right? Just an objective look at the Baltimore Ravens roster, the strengths, the weaknesses, and what I consider to be the biggest issue, the biggest concern for the Baltimore Ravens heading into the season. And right now, if they were to strap up, they got time. There's going to be guys released, post-June. There's going to be training camp stuff. We could still have trades. So the Ravens still have time to fix this. But the biggest concern right now for the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion, is the defensive line depth. I want you guys to think about this, all right? So the Baltimore Ravens' true backup nose tackle right now would be an undrafted free agent and defensive lineman Jason Jones, who they just signed on an undrafted deal, right? Or defensive lineman Nas Hutchmaker. We'll talk about those guys in a minute. I'm actually kind of optimistic about what they can do. But the 3 true defensive tackles right now on the Baltimore Ravens roster that have actual starting experience is Nnamdi Madubuike, who's an all-pro. The Ravens signed to a monster deal. I'm not concerned about the high-end talent, but the depth is what we're talking about here. So Nnamdi Madubuike, Travis Jones going into his contract year, year number 4 for him. So he'll be a free agent next season. And then Broderick Washington. So 3 true defensive tackles with starting experience that you need in a consistent rotation right there. So after them, the depth gets very scary very quickly. You have true rookie Aeneas Peebles, who's quickly turning into a fan favorite. If you guys didn't see this, by the way, we'll go down the rabbit hole. Here's Peebles doing the worm at the Senior Bowl. He's instantly become like a fan favorite with his personality and kind of like his play style and his juice and his tenacity. This guy is a true pass rusher. If you guys missed it, man, Peebles actually has an absurd pass rush win rate compared to his class guys. Like Peebles was a top 120 prospect on most consensus board, but fell down to the Ravens at 210. EDC, Eric DeCosta said he views him as a third down sub rusher. A 91.2 pass rush grade in 2024, which was first among all defensive tackles in this year's draft class. And out of 388 defensive linemen, there was only 4 players with a better than 12% pressure rate and a sub-5 40-yard dash. That was Derek Harmon, who went in the first round, TJ Sanders, who went in the second round, Aeneas Peebles, and Aiden Huntington. Peebles in some pretty rare company right here. The reason why he fell is because he's a little bit smaller. He doesn't have the length, and he's under 300 pounds, so he doesn't have like the massive size to be a consistent 3-down player. Now, does that mean he can't develop into that? Absolutely not, man. This guy can cause issues in the run game as well and disrupt timing and blow off blocks and stuff, but People's got some work to do as far as being a 3-down player. So this brings me back to depth, right? Let me ask you this. If Travis Jones were to have an injury like he did last year, like who's your true run-stuffing nose tackle? Like who are you putting at 1 tech or 0 tech over the center? Like Madubuike could probably hold up as a nose tackle, but that's not his game. He's a 3 tech. He is big and strong, but he's more of a 3 tech. That's not his game as a true nose tackle. It used to be Michael Pierce in that rotation with Travis Jones, and then Broderick Washington can hold up there if you need, but the Ravens only have, like I said, 3 true defensive tackles on the roster right now, and they're going to need to improve at that spot. In my opinion, an injury to either Madubuike or Travis Jones would spell major issues and problems for the defensive line, being able to stop the run and even get interior pass rush out of those positions. So for me, like I heard it from another Ravens content creator. He said it really well. He said I think it's inexcusable that the Ravens had 11 draft picks and in one of the deepest interior defensive lineman classes in recent history, they didn't grab any like true nose tackles or true like run stuffing defensive tackles. I do see that as a knock on the Ravens draft. As much as I love it, I'm floored over the Ravens draft, especially the first three picks really. I love the 4th round linebacker as well, and then some of the depth guys they got later in the 6th round. I love the Ravens draft, but the one knock on it is that they didn't grab a run stuffing defensive tackle. The biggest, if you guys go back and watch the Buffalo Bills game, there was times where their offensive line was getting push on our defensive front, and that was even with Michael Pierce, Jones, and Matabike all in that rotation. So definitely a little bit of a concern for me is the defensive line and being able to consistently stop the run, as well as having a nice deep rotation of interior pass rushers. I'd like to see the Baltimore Ravens add at least one more guy before the season starts. Problem is there isn't a lot of options on the free agent market. There will be some more guys that are released later down the line, but we don't know who that is quite yet. The Ravens also could make a trade during the season if it really becomes a problem or if they have an injury. That's always an option as well. So keep your eye out on that defensive line. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. If it's a position of concern for you, if you're not that worried about it, or if there's another position that's more concerning for you, let me know in the comment section below. At number 2, we had to just show you this because it's funny. Rashod Bateman running routes in the grocery store, juking around carts, just funny. By the way, Rashod Bateman was listed as one of the most underrated players in the entire National Football League. So I thought this would be a good time to show you some of the plays that Rashod Bateman made in the 2024 season. I feel like he got a little bit, swept under the rug and kind of flew under the radar how much of a great season he actually had because of the seasons that Lamar and Derrick Henry were having as MVP candidates, and then Flowers going over 1,000 yards as a homegrown receiver, and then Isaiah Likely and Mark, the plays they were making. Rashod Bateman was a legit wide receiver too last year that showed wide receiver 1 type of flashes. His route running and his separation rate was one of the best in the National Football League last year. He had a top 5 separation grade. He was also a consistent red zone threat with the route running down there where it gets tight. 9 touchdowns last year, over 700 yards. We've always known the talent for Bateman has been there. Like anytime he's been on the field, you've seen the silky smooth route running and the elusivity even after the catch to make guys miss and get upfield. The ability to create separation down the field. He has legit 4.4 speed as well. We've always seen the talent there for Rashod Bateman. It's just been a question of availability and injuries. And we saw a healthy Bateman in 2024, and that looked like over 700 yards, 9 touchdowns. And I think it'll be even better in 2025. I think there's a legitimate shot that the Baltimore Ravens have 2 true wide receivers going over 1,000 yards. I think there's a legitimate chance that Rashod Bateman and Zay Flowers could both have 1,000 yards in 2025. In my opinion, the Ravens' pass protection is only going to be better. They have the majority of their starters coming back. The only spot not coming back is left guard Patrick McCarry. But 4 out of those 5 guys have starting experience and are improving and gelling together, which should give Lamar Jackson more time to throw the football, especially early in the season. It was looking rough for the first 4 weeks. Pass protection was not looking good. Eventually they figured it out and improved, but I think they'll get off to a hotter start in the beginning to give Lamar more time to dish the ball downfield. We also know what Derrick Henry in the backfield does with play action and how it sucks those linebackers in to create separation for the receivers and tight ends behind. I think this Ravens offense is going to be top 3 in the NFL. Wouldn't surprise me if they were number 1. They're going to be very special year 3 of Todd Monken. And pretty much all of their offensive guys returning. They upgraded at wide receiver 3, went from Nelson Aguilar to DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm fired up about this offense. Rashod Bateman will be a massive part of that. At number 3, speaking of wide receivers, a former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver who they traded a pick for last year in Deontay Johnson. We know how that ended. Didn't end well with the Ravens. Didn't really make any impact on the field. He was released. He was then picked up by 2 other teams, I think, during the season, and ultimately was a free agent this offseason, and he signed with the Browns. he'll be catching some passes from either Joe Flacco or Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders or any of the other 10 quarterbacks they have over there in Cleveland. But he finds a new home, and Deontay Johnson, now a Cleveland Brown. I'll leave that at that. A list of undrafted free agents, man, that the Baltimore Ravens are bringing in. Let's start with the two biggest positions of need, like we talked about, the guys that have the biggest shot and chance of actually making the roster, because most of these spots are loaded. Like, it's going to be hard to make this team as a corner. It's going to be hard to make this team as a receiver if you're undrafted. But defensive linemen have a legit shot to make the roster as rotational and depth guys. Let's start with defensive lineman Jason Jones out of Auburn. He is 6'6", 350 pounds, 84 career tackles in college, and 1.5. Actually, the only offensive lineman jersey I've ever bought in my entire life. But I'm rooting for Nash Hutchmaker because I like the wrestling background there. Those guys typically, we know Ray Lewis had the wrestling background as well. And sometimes, man, those skills really translate to the football field, especially in those high contact, leverage, body control positions like linebackers and offensive and defensive linemen. So I'm rooting for Hutchmaker there out of Nebraska. We also have a big physical wide receiver in Xavier Guillory. I think he's 6'2", 205. Transferred to Arizona State after starting his career at Idaho State. He had 339 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. He's also one of the best run-blocking receivers in this year's draft class. Very physical, big catch radius. We'll see what he can do, if he can maybe make the roster as a wide receiver 6 or 7, and then also get on the team as on the field as a special teamer, or maybe he makes the practice squad. But rooting for Xavier here. We got offensive lineman Jared Penning, who is the brother of Trevor Penning, who's a first-round offensive tackle on the Saints. 6'5", played for Northern Iowa. Linebacker Jay Higgins was not supposed to go undrafted. I don't know the reasons why, but they signed him to a $20,000 signing bonus to get him. Must have been a priority for them. Not 295 tackles over the last 2 seasons. That's mind-boggling. That's like averaging 150 tackles per season. Displayed a nose for the football and pass coverage with 4 interceptions in 2024. That's a lot of production. Maybe he didn't test well athletically, but a linebacker with a lot of coverage in a big school. The Ravens signed him, made him a priority free agent. Linebacker Nakbanu Fortabo out of Towson. 6.5 sacks for the Tigers last season and 33 tackles. Wide receiver Jamal Banks out of Nebraska, 6'4", 587 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. Looks like they're targeting the bigger bodies for those undrafted free agent wide receivers. Cornerback Marquise Robinson out of Arkansas ran a 4.45 40-yard dash at his pro day. Had 7 passes defensed and 1 interception out of Arkansas last season. Edge DeJuan Black out of Temple, 3 sacks last season, 2 forced fumbles. Started his career at junior college before transferring to Florida and then Temple. Running back Marcus Major Jr. out of Minnesota, 352 rushing yards, and also added 20 receptions for 144 receiving yards last season. Defensive back Keandre Jackson out of Illinois State, 9 passes defensed and 3 picks this last season. Tight end Sam Pitts, University of Minnesota Duluth. Pitts had 940 career receiving yards and 17 touchdowns in 5 seasons playing Division II football. Ravens scouts really doing their work at some of these smaller schools. Offensive lineman Ozzie Hutchinson out of Albany. Wide receiver Ketron Jackson out of Baylor. Cornerback Keon Martin out of Louisiana Lafayette. Offensive tackle Reed Holsky out of Miami. Running back Son Nato out of Monmouth. This guy gives me some excitement. Here's like a little run of him powering through some defenders. Averaged 4.5 yards per carry, 25 touchdowns and 487 yards last season. 25 touchdowns in one season. Like, the guy was used in those goal line situations as an absolute big power back, but also ran a 4.5. Linebacker Chandler Martin out of Memphis. Defensive back Desmond Igbonason out of Rutgers. And then there were some other minicamp invites as well. So just an update on the undrafted free agents the Baltimore Ravens brought in. I got my eye on Xavier Guillory, the wide receiver, the 2 defensive lineman prospects, Jason Jones and Nash Hutchmaker, as well as the running back, Son Nato out of Monmouth. So those are the guys I'm looking at. Let me know if there's any other guys that you guys are eyeing up as guys that could potentially make the roster or the practice squad. Also, keep in mind, there are some free agents still out there, like Zadarius Smith, if the Ravens really wanted to get crazy with it, with that defensive line rotation, that edge rusher rotation. But keep in mind, they also have, at this point, Adafe Owe, Cal Van Noy, second-round pick Mike Green. They also have David Ojabo going into the final year of his contract, Adisa Isaac, Tavius Robinson. That's 6 edge rushers right there. Is there room for another guy like a Zadarius Smith? There could be, especially, if they wanted to get Zadarius Smith, so he can rush from the inside as well. He has that versatility. So imagine like a sub package where Mike Green, Adafe Owe, Zadarius Smith, and like Matabike are rushing at the same time. The Ravens' edge room is looking pretty good now, pretty deep. Got a good mix of vets and younger guys as well. But the defensive line is my biggest concern. Let me know what you guys think about it, man. Smash the like button if you got any value out of today's content. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.